Omarosa Manigault blew up at Chief of Staff John Kelly after she was told that her husband no longer had clearance to attend the White House staff Christmas party, DailyMail.com has learned exclusively. Manigault shockingly announced she was leaving her position on Wednesday after news broke that she had an epic showdown with the Chief of Staff on Tuesday night. But her recent departure was not because of the blow-up at the Christmas party. Kelly had already been planning to fire her, sources told DailyMail.com. The retired four-star general wanted her gone because of her abusive treatment of other senior officials, assuring them that the situation would be handled soon and acknowledging that she was a troublemaker from the get-go, insiders claim. Due to her close friendship with President Trump and at his request, Kelly agreed to let Manigault say she resigned and allowed her to stay in office until January 20 so she would have a full year of working at the White House, sources said. The two did not part ways on good terms, but the trigger for Manigault flying into a rage against Kelly was learning that her husband John Allen Newman could no longer attend the holiday bash. The former Apprentice star demanded to know if President Trump was aware of the decision, before she marched off towards his residence, where she once had been relatively free to come and go. But she was refused entry by Secret Service. Kelly ousted Manigault because she was a tyrant with an air of entitlement. But because of her friendship with President Trump, he allowed her to stay on for a few more weeks so that she could have a full year at the White House under her belt. A source close to the administration said, "The only reason Omarosa survived Reince Priebus, Steve Bannon and Sean Spicer is because the president protected her. They all had issues with her at one point or another, but despite their gripes about her and their desires for her to be let go, Trump always had her back." Manigault's story about resigning in the wake of Roy Moore's defeat is essentially a cover story, said Sean Jackson, chairman of the Black Republican Caucus of Florida. He claims that he was informed by two White House staffers that Kelly fired her because he was just tired of her ranting and parading around as if she owned the place. Another element in Kelly's decision was that Manigault berated the executive director of the administration's Historically Black Colleges and Universities initiative in a phone call that was overheard by two senior Department of Education officials. The Department of Education and the staffers involved declined to comment. Two people detailed Manigault's abuse of direct staffers to DailyMail.com, one who was still working in her office and another who changed jobs to get out from under her thumb. She was just a tyrant. They were intimidated and in fear of their jobs being in jeopardy, Jackson explained. Manigault and Kelly did not part on good terms. When Manigault found out that her husband, who she married in April, couldn't come to that night's party, sparks flew. An insider revealed, when she got word that her husband could not attend the Christmas party because his security clearance under her had been cancelled already, she was outraged. She confronted General Kelly about it and that's when the explosive altercation happened between them. She was embarrassed by that and it sent her over the top. According to the White House source, staffers there submit a list of names of people who are vetted for security purposes, particularly if those people regularly visit. Once a staffer's privileges start being removed and their access limited, those on your clearance list are no longer allowed to come in. The source said, "This is a woman who showed up at the White House with her entire bridal party for an unplanned, unauthorized wedding day photo shoot. So, imagine her outrage when she was told that her husband could not come to the White House that evening for one of the holiday parties. She was peeved to say the least." Jackson added, "She became disgruntled and she tripped the alarms and she started throwing obscenities." Multiple sources with knowledge of the situation have also said that Manigault was escorted off the premises on Tuesday evening after she reached an agreement with the administration to leave her position. Secret Service denied in a tweet that it led her off the property, and Manigault pointed to it as evidence that unflattering testimony about her abrupt exit were wrong. Jackson said her access to the complex had been revoked and she was not going back. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders ducked DailyMail.com's question about Manigault's access. She told another reporter that Manigault would be in the building later. On Thursday, Manigault denied the pass that allows her to walk on and off the property had been confiscated. She also denied storming the White House residence after being fired by Kelly, who she reportedly swore at in a dramatic exit from the White House during the Christmas party. A single reporter, longtime White House correspondent April Ryan, said that Manigault was very vulgar and cursed a lot at Kelly on her way out. Manigault demanded evidence of her alleged tirade, calling the report 100% false and claiming she was the victim of a vendetta from Ryan. "I resigned, and I didn't do that in the residence as is being reported. John Kelly and I sat down in the Situation Room, which is a very secure, very quiet room in the White House, and we had a very candid conversation," Manigault said on ABC on Thursday. And I wanted to make the one-year mark. That was one of the goals that I set out to, and then get back to my life. Manigault said that stories about her storming the president's private living quarters are ridiculous and absurd. I would hope that people would recognize there is a good security infrastructure around this president. I wouldn't want anyone, nonetheless myself, to be able to run around or cause a disruption, she said. He is truly the President of the United States and should be afforded that respect, and I've always been respectful. But Manigault also hinted at wider tensions and unhappiness in the White House. There were a lot of things that I observed during the last year that I was very unhappy with, that I was very uncomfortable with, she said, declining to go further until her tenure in the White House has formally ended. But when I have my story to tell as the only African-American woman in this White House, as a senior staff and assistant to the president, I have seen things that have made me uncomfortable, that have upset me, that have affected me deeply and emotionally, that has affected my community and my people, and when I can tell my story, it is a profound story that I know the world will want to hear. Manigault is embroiled in a spat with reporter Ryan, who insisted that Manigault was cursing on her way out. The two had once been friends but fell out bitterly, and Manigault earlier this year was reported to have warned Ryan that she was keeping a dossier on her and other African-American reporters, something she later denied. Ryan, a CNN contributor, went on New Day on Thursday, and stuck to her guns, claiming that she had multiple, credible sources telling her that Kelly approached Manigault on Tuesday evening at a White House Christmas party and said he needed to speak to her. And she said, "Sure, I want to have full access again." Full access meaning walk-in privileges anytime into the Oval Office, being able to go in and out of meetings as per what she wants to do at any time, Ryan said. Kelly told her no, Ryan said, and Manigault replied, "If I don't get it, all hell will break loose, or there'll be a price to pay." He said, "Okay, all hell is going to break loose." And that's where it started. And apparently people heard it. She was allegedly vulgar, cursing, Ryan said. Ryan told CNN that she had multiple sources telling her that Manigault was with her husband, a pastor, at the time of the confrontation. Manigault is also a minister. The couple tied the knot in April at the Old Post Pavilion in Trump Hotel, a stone's throw from the White House. The 43-year-old donned an elaborate bejeweled wedding gown and had a 39-person wedding party, with the ceremony attended by 70 people. Last month it emerged that the Trump aide took advantage of her position and traipsed her large wedding party through the White House on her big day for impromptu photo shoot but was banned from sharing the photos online. Her visitors wandered around the president's home, chatting loudly and looking to take photos in the West Wing and the Rose Garden. It is not clear whether she had sought permission for the wedding day photo shoot, but several aides were reportedly not briefed and were stunned to see dozens of wedding guests traipsing round one of the country's most important, and high-security, federal buildings. Manigault was notably absent from the White House on Wednesday, the day after her alleged firing, and Thursday, when she appeared on the set of Good Morning America in New York for a live interview with Michael Strahan. On her press tour of morning shows, Manigault demanded on GMA that Ryan, and others saying she was kicked out, provide videos or photographs to corroborate that version of the story. The assertion that I would do that in front of 600 guests at a Christmas party, and no one has reported that except for one individual who has a personal vendetta against me, she said. And so I have to tell you, completely false, unverified reporting. And John Kelly and I had a very straightforward discussion about concerns that I had, issues that I raised, and as a result, I resigned, and it will be taking place January 20th, when I leave this very interesting administration. Ryan fired back on CNN later in the morning, noting that she has 20 years of experience on the White House beat. "Some may not have liked what I have reported," she said. "I have never had anyone say that there is a vendetta. I'm doing my job." Ryan reiterated that she has credible sources telling her that Manigault was fired. She backstopped her account with reporting from CBS, ABC and the New York Times. "I'm not the only one," she said. Omarosa seems very angry with the White House and wants to do a tell-all, she said, echoing a sentiment that GMA anchor Robin Roberts had earlier expressed. Strahan told his co-host that the fourth time could be the charm on Manigault's relationship with President Trump. Roberts said, "She said she has a story to tell and I'm sure she'll be selling that story." By Felicia, Roberts deadpanned. The U.S. Secret Service confirmed Wednesday evening that Manigault had been terminated and her access to the White House complex revoked. In a tweet, the agency denied that its personnel was involved in the physically removing of Manigault from the grounds, as Ryan had reported on air on CNN. A second message suggested that she is no longer cleared to come and go and she pleases, despite earlier claims from the White House that she would remain in the president's service until January 20. The Secret Service was not involved in the termination process of Ms. Manigault-Newman or the escort off of the complex, the tweet said. Our only involvement in this matter was to deactivate the individual's pass which grants access to the complex. Later that hour, President Donald Trump signaled his desire for Manigault to exit her position gracefully. Thank you Omarosa for your service. I wish you continued success. On Wednesday, sources inside the White House told DailyMail.com that reports indicating that Manigault was fired and escorted out on Tuesday evening after cursing out Kelly were incorrect. The Wall Street Journal subsequently quoted a White House official as saying that Manigault was physically dragged and escorted off the campus on Tuesday night. On Wednesday evening CBS reported that Manigault raced to the residence to appeal her firing and set off alarms, leading to her removal from the property. The news network also said that Manigault tasked the president's daughter, Ivanka, another senior White House advisor to intervene. A senior White House official told DailyMail.com on Thursday morning that the bit about Ivanka was not true, and CBS had already been provided the same denial. Another official said that Manigault's assistant was still employed at the White House as of Wednesday. Manigault doubled down on her story on Thursday, pointing to the Secret Service statement and said, "I think you should take the word of the U.S. Secret Service over someone who has a personal vendetta to bring me down, and they personally gain by continuing to advance these false narratives." She admitted that her access to the White House was restricted upon her resignation but claimed the pass that was taken barred her from viewing classified information and personal presidential communication. "And so that access changed, which means that my pass has to change. So what they tweeted was correct," she said. "And they're deactivating my pass, reducing it or restricting it to areas I can only go, was absolutely correct and it should be done in that way." Manigault said, "I was not escorted. I did not cause a disruption, and I believe that their word is truly valid." USSS has not responded to a request for clarification from DailyMail.com on Manigault's status and whether she has a second pass, as she claimed on GMA, that gives her access to the complex. A senior official told DailyMail.com on Wednesday that Ryan's reporting about the cursing at Kelly was wrong. April Ryan has a problem with the White House, with Omarosa, the source said. The person knows these statements aren't true and claimed that Ryan has a personal vendetta that carried over from the feud earlier in the year. Another official had also attested that Manigault resigned. An official told DailyMail.com prior to the brouhaha that Manigault had a chance to speak to the president, with whom she appeared with on the reality television show The Apprentice, and is leaving his service on positive terms. Manigault was said to have left because of Roy Moore, an Alabama Republican accused of sexually assaulting and harassing teens. Moore was also hit with charges of racism after he said in unearthed remarks that everything after the 10th Amendment should be abolished. After Roy Moore, enough was enough, the aide said. A source outside the administration said that she was fired and escorted off the grounds the evening before, however, and she had already been planning Black History Month events for February. Why would you be planning Black History Month events if you were going to resign after Roy Moore? The source said. The White House quickly confirmed that the 43-year-old staffer who had become a lightning rod for controversy in the Trump administration would be departing in January. Omarosa Manigault-Newman resigned yesterday to pursue other opportunities. Her departure will not be effective until January 20, 2018. We wish her the best in future endeavors and are grateful for her service, a statement read. Manigault struggled in the administration, where she was the only senior African-American staffer. Her office was not in the West Wing, and she was said to have lost her Oval Office walk-in privileges months ago. Former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus was reportedly trying to sideline her before he was fired, although Trump's then communications director, Mike Duck, told DailyMail.com in May that it was absolutely not true. A Daily Beast profile on Manigault in September claimed that Kelly was also trying to curb Manigault's access to the president. But he was having a tough time, the news outlet reported, as would regularly ring Manigault after hours on her cell. Manigault said Thursday, on GMA, that Kelly came into the job when there was a lot of turmoil and we all had to adjust to his very different, militaristic style. I had a very clear, outlined defined role for what I did, she said. Donald Trump chose me for his team. I'm not certain as John Kelly was starting to develop his team, that's someone that he wanted me to be on his team. She said Kelly brought much needed order to the West Wing and acknowledged that he did bar aides from walking into the president's office unless they were invited. Certainly, "I had more access than most, and people had problems with that," she stated. "People had problems with my 14-year relationship with this president. But I've always been loyal to him, straightforward." This summer, Manigault tussled with the Congressional Black Caucus after the organization snubbed a meeting with Trump over policies they determined would hurt the black community. The group was also said to be upset that Manigault affixed the word honorable to her title in the White House's invitation. Early on in the administration, Manigault wound up in the news after a spat with Ryan. The senior White House correspondent says the Trump administration official physically intimidated her. Ryan said that Manigault claimed the administration was keeping dossiers on black journalists, as well. The journalist said in an August podcast that Manigault was ranting and raving at her during the confrontation, in which the former reality TV star accused the seasoned journalist of accepting funds from Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. "I made mincemeat of her," Ryan said, according to the Washington Examiner. "Because, I said, I was here when you got fired the last time and I'll be here when you get fired this time. I've been doing well. What were you doing last year? Nothing but selling cell phones." Manigault was fired 3 times on The Apprentice, Celebrity Apprentice and All-Star Celebrity Apprentice. Since Trump took office, she has been the director of communications for his White House's Office of Public Liaison. A source told DailyMail.com that Manigault decided to leave the administration in the wake of Moore's defeat to Democrat Doug Jones. Trump endorsed Moore after the allegations of sexual assault were revealed on the grounds that the Republican denied dating and touching teens. It was not until earlier this week that CNN published a report on Moore's 2011 claim that constitutional amendments, including those that ended slavery and gave minorities equal protection under the law, should be eliminated. He had also claimed at a rally in September that the last time America had direction was back when it allowed slavery. Manigault stayed on past the president's comment that there were very fine people on both sides of a Charlottesville race riot, a remark that was interpreted by many as racially insensitive. And she stood by his side through a verbal assault on football players who kneeled during the national anthem in protest of police brutality against African Americans. By the time Trump fought with an African American Gold Star widow, Myshia Johnson, whose husband, Law David, died in the line of duty, Manigault's patience was wearing thin, the source said. Thursday, on GMA, Manigault addressed President Trump's record on race by way of her previous service as a low-level aide in Bill Clinton's White House. "People forget that I'm not new to this. I've been in politics for a very long time, and I know what I'm doing. And what was trying to be done 20 years, and what you're trying to say that we didn't accomplish in 11 months is a little ridiculous," she said. But did President Trump try? I think that he tried in his own way. There are things that he could have done, and things that this administration needs to continue to do to try to bring this country together, and hopefully they'll succeed for the good of this nation. She is set to leave the White House on January 20, 2018, Trump's first anniversary in the Oval Office. She is one of the highest-paid White House officials, taking home a salary of $179,000 a year. At least 4 more officials will make their own exit then, a White House official said. Those names were not disclosed.